What do you think are the keys to keep going and doing what you're doing?
For the first time in my life, and I had a career, my husband had a career, but we will both say, like, for the first time in our lives, we know that we're doing what we were called to do.
Yeah.
Like, everything in my life, I said I wasn't going to cry. I didn't, but everything in my life has led up to this.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Behind the Brand, a podcast where we take a deep dive behind the brands that we know and love. We believe that behind every great brand or organization, there's a great person, a great story, and today's guest is no exception to that. And that is Jen Strygulec. Did I say that right?
You did.
I had to practice it many, many times before the podcast. What is the origin of that name?
Polish. My
Polish,
in-laws are
right?
from Poland.
Okay, so Strygulec, and I would have totally butchered it, so I'm glad you told me how it goes. But thanks for being my guest today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Before we get into Center of Hope and all the cool things that you guys are doing, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, my husband and I are the directors of the Fenton Center of Hope, and we came to this. This is like our second career in life kind of thing. And we worked together, and we started off our life working together, and now we're working together again. We have 3 amazing children and 5 precious grandbabies, and we're blessed to have the grandkids all live near us, and we have a great life. We love our family, and we've got great friends. We live where I grew up, and we have a church family that we're very involved in, and
Awesome.
yeah.
So 3 kids, boys or girls?
We have a son and 2 daughters.
Son and 2 daughters, and then the grandkids you have 5. What's the mix on that?
3 boys and 2 girls.
3 boys and 2 girls. And what are their ages?
The baby, the youngest grandbaby is 5 months old. Then we have a 2-year-old granddaughter, then a 4-year-old granddaughter, 3-year-old grandson, and then 7-year-old grandson.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's easier I know as a parent, what's easier, boys or girls? Or I have my opinion. As a grandparent, what's easier, boys or girls?
None of them are more difficult as a grandparent. I never thought about that.
Yeah,
Because
because everything they do is just, if they don't do something you like, you just send them back to the parents, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that boys are easier to raise.
Mhm.
A relationship with girls is good when they become adults, but the grandbabies, they're just hilarious. They're all
Yeah.
they're funny, and
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to being a grandparent someday. I have 2 kids that are married. I don't know that either of them are trying yet, so I'm not in a hurry. I still have kids at the house, so we're good there. Any pets?
All of our pets have deceased due to age, and then we thought we were done so that we could travel when we became empty nesters. But my mom recently passed away a year ago, and she had this cat that none of us liked. We're not cat people, and we inherited the cat. And
Okay.
I love this cat.
Yeah, I get it.
Like, the bond between the cat and I is crazy.
Yeah,
She
cats
acts like
make
a
you
dog.
work for it.
Yeah, she loves me, though. She never liked me before, but as soon as my mom was gone, I'm her person.
Today's episode is brought to you by AZee Branding Agency, where we help grow your brand from A to Z. If your business is great but nobody knows it, you don't have a marketing problem, you've got a branding problem. At AZ, we help you stand out with bold branding by creating websites, social media, video, and photography that actually gets noticed. Because attention is the #1 currency in business, and your brand deserves more of it. Learn more at azeebranding.com, and let's get your brand the attention it deserves.
Well, so I think we met originally at Fenton Networking now. It may have been here. You came to one of our events. I don't know if we met there first or here, but I do know that every time we've had a conversation, you've been a very gracious person. You have great eye contact. You can tell you have a lot of empathy. I always felt like when you were talking to me, you were genuinely interested in me and what I had to say. And so I think that speaks to who you are, and I think that carries into your organization, which we'll talk about. And then my perspective is everyone that I've ever heard talk about you or talk about Center of Hope, it just, you and your husband and that organization means so much to so many people. And I just don't think you can fake that, And so I just feel like you're a very, very genuine person. I've enjoyed getting to know you, and I was super excited when I saw you signed up to be on the podcast. So let's kind of dive in a little bit to the organization that you and your husband run, Fenton Center of Hope. Tell our audience a little bit about what that is.
We're a nonprofit. We've been a nonprofit for 9 years, and we help families in crisis situations with all different kinds of resources that we offer. But the reason that we started doing this was my husband, I shouldn't say my husband, has always been involved in food pantries in whatever church we were going to or helping. I was raised by two of the biggest helpers in the world. I had people, like my parents were always like letting people come live with us and just loved people. So then I married Bob, who is totally into, feeding people. And we started a food pantry at our little church in Fenton. And they also had a baby closet that a woman had started. And then she left the state and we took that over. And we were only open twice a week in that food pantry, but we realized very quickly that everyone that came to the food pantry, it wasn't in a church, it was in on the property of a church, but the people didn't come to that church, and most of them didn't go to any church at all. And the second thing we realized was that there was not just like one generation, it was often several generations of a family coming. And my husband is a thinker, a planner, a financial planner is what his, job was at that time. And one night this woman came in and she had her daughter and her granddaughter, and the granddaughter was a teenager and she was pregnant, and they all needed food. And when they left, he said, "We are not making a difference. We're just putting a Band-Aid on a problem. And someday we're going to retire and we're going to do something to make a difference." And I said, "Okay, like when?" And he said, "When we retire, so don't worry." And he started planning though. He started like making notes. And every time we would go to visit a different state, we would go visit food pantries or organizations that were helping people. And one day we took our son to college, to Missouri, and just out of the blue, like I wanted to see an aunt who was divorced from our family and I hadn't seen her in a long time. And I said, "Can we see you while we're here?" And she said, "Well, I'm working at this nonprofit today, but you can stop by and see me." And the whole way down to Missouri, Bob was talking about his plan of what someday this building will look like. And we walked into this building and it was exactly what he had described. And they had, a job skill area. They were giving bus passes. It was back to school, so they were doing backpacks. They had appliances and clothes and just everything. And he said, "This is it. Like, this is what I described." He actually drew a picture of what he wanted someday. And so he just kept dreaming and dreaming and dreaming and talking more and more about it. And then at the same time, he started going to ministry school. And I said, "Why do you want to do this?" And I said, "You don't want to be a pastor of a church, do you?" And he said, "No, I just really, really want to know why I believe what I believe." He wasn't, raised in faith. So at once a month, every weekend, he would go to ministry school. He'd be gone for the whole weekend, come back, and, he would take his tests and they would have classes and they would do homework all month and then go back. And so he's done all 3 levels to be an ordained pastor. When he went for his interview to be ordained, they said, "Well, you still don't want to be in a church, so we really can't ordain you." But through that experience, we met, like the very first funeral he ever did was a family that came to the food pantry. And it was another family that had been generations, and they had a little baby that was stillborn. And they weren't believers, and it was just the most just saddest, terriblest thing. But he did such an amazing job, and so that's where he uses his pastor skills.
Heart, yeah.
It's in his heart, yeah.
It's in his heart, and obviously, if you're going to take on something like this, and you have to have a passion for people and a heart for people, and really, that's what ministry is. I just taught a Sunday school lesson a few weeks ago about serving. My topic, they picked the topic for me. They want to talk about serving, and I just said, as Christians, we're all called to serve. And a lot of times, we think of a calling to ministry as a pastor or a missionary, but we're all called to ministry. And ministry is really just taking care of people and loving people and showing them Christ. And so it's very, very much ministry. And obviously, that, but I think that's really, really cool. And I think it's awesome that he went and got, his knowledge about everything. And I'm sure he has lots of opportunity to counsel people and those types of things. So I think that's great. So now you said that you wanted to start this when you retired.
Yeah.
Were you retired? And does it feel like you're retired now?
No, we just had this meeting, a financial meeting, to talk about our future. And when we left, I said, "We're never going to retire, are we?" And he said, "No, We're not, you know, I don't think that we ever would. And I remember one time a pastor said that used to make him really mad when people talked about retiring. He said, because we never retired. Like if you're
No.
always like serving people. So we won't retire, but that's okay. My parents never did. They always just served people and just kept
Yeah, I
doing
think
this.
you can take a lesser level of something or take a step back, but
Mm-hmm.
I think retirement is digging an early grave. Everyone who I
Mm-hmm.
see who goes from really, really working to doing nothing, they just they kind of fall apart, they deteriorate. And so you
Yeah.
have to find something to stay busy and keep doing the things that you love, or
Mm-hmm.
else it will age you. It
Yeah.
will age you.
Yeah. The Center of Hope, I keep skipping topics, but we have over 100 volunteers. And I'm talking like right now, we have the most solid, amazing, overqualified volunteers, but they've all retired from great, huge careers.
Yeah.
And now they're at the Center of Hope every day,
Yeah.
stocking shelves or just doing things that you
It's
would never
incredible.
think that I would never ask someone from their position to do. But
So
so
when did
one
you guys get your building? You guys have a really big building,
we do.
right?
So we started off in that little church, but let me backtrack and just say that
Sure.
one day Bob called me from work and he was a vice president of a bank. And we still had one kid in college, two at school. And he called me and he said, I'm coming home. And I said, what do you mean you're coming home? I was folding laundry. I will never forget. And he said, I'm coming home and for good. And I said, did you just get fired? And he said, no. He's like, I just quit. And when he tells the story, he was sitting in his office and he was dreaming about the Center of Hope again and writing notes. And he called his mentor, this guy from his Bible study, and he said, I am just miserable when I'm at work and I feel guilty because all I'm doing is thinking and planning for this, nonprofit. And the guy said, then you ask the Lord. You don't look at the numbers. You just ask
Right.
the Lord. And he said, I asked the Lord and I'm coming home. And I panicked. He came home. He was just 3 minutes from our house. But I said, what are we going to do about health insurance? And what are we going to do about, he said, God's going to take care of us. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And then we found out that a foundation, we had gotten our nonprofit status, even though we weren't a nonprofit, but we'd gotten that so that we could, and that happened a lot faster than we expected, but so we could start fundraising. And then we ended up finding out that this foundation, who we knew, like somebody was our friend that worked for the foundation, and she was like, you guys are going to get money. And it's going to be for staffing, for the first year. And the money they were giving us was very generous, but it was not what we were making. It did not replace his salary, but it was like, okay, we can breathe. It's like, we're not going to lose our house. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And as we were just so excited about that, and like, sure, that was the confirmation. And then that same woman called us back and she's like, I am so sorry, but we can't give you the money. It was during the Flint water crisis, and they actually took back all the money that they had committed to a lot of different organizations. So my first thought was, I said out loud, so you're going to go get your job back, right? And he said, no, I'm not. God's going to take care of us. And again, he was a vice president at a bank, and we went on great cushy trips every year, provided, by his job. It was just a wonderful, he worked his butt off. It was a great career. But for that first year, our friends had just started a business, a commercial cleaning business. And they said, well, you can come work with us. And for 1 year, every single night when we would go to bed, he would get up and he would go and clean all night long.
Yeah.
So that's why now, like, I always tell people, I can get you a job today.
Yeah.
And they say, well, I'm not going to do that job. And I always say, my husband cleaned toilets for a year after he was a vice president of a bank. You can do what you have to do.
How much do you want it? How much are you willing? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and really what you're describing, and obviously something like that requires a great deal of heart and vision and calling and purpose and all of those things. But you're kind of describing really the story of an entrepreneur as well. Like when somebody determines they want to go out and do something on their own, it requires, in most cases, a great deal of sacrifice and taking a bit step back to hopefully take a step forward. And the only way you get through it, I'm convinced that the only ones that make it in terms of the world of businesses or starting a nonprofit or organization, the only ones that make it are the ones that refuse to quit. Because there's going to be times where you're like, this doesn't make any sense. Why am I doing this? I could go get a different job. And if you're not living with vision and you're not living with purpose, if you're not living with some sort of calling, then you will quit. It will get the best of you because it is not an easy life, an easy world. But what makes it worth all of the sacrifice and all the work and all of the questions is knowing you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
So let's talk. So you guys started 9 years ago. You started in a little church,
Mm-hmm.
and it grew.
Mm-hmm.
You said today you guys have over 100
Mm-hmm.
volunteers. You have a large space. How big is your building?
Um, Square feet wise,
Yeah,
I don't know. 12,000 square feet
yeah,
is the main building. Then we have 3 houses that are all 8,000 square feet each
yeah.
on the
Wow.
property. We did not want the houses, but that building that we're in used to be a church, and the pastor had passed away. But his wife, who we were negotiating with, she said, "Nope, God told me the houses go with,"
Wow.
and so now we've got a plan for that too.
So
But
people, okay, so basically, the the main building houses what
a
exactly?
food pantry that looks like a little grocery store. It literally does.
Hmm.
It's the largest free choice food pantry in our county, in Genesee County. So that means that folks get to come in, grab a cart, and choose the foods they want rather than be handed a box or a bag of food that doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Even in our first pantry was in a single car garage. And even then, Bob said, we're dignity and respect.
yeah,
He always wanted to give people dignity and respect. And we believed firmly from the very beginning that education and relationship was the only way that we could really truly make a difference in someone's life.
100%.
So that's never changed all these years. So we have the food pantry, and then we have a baby closet. It used to be just called the baby closet. Now it's part of the parenting program. So that again is like a little boutique and filled with clothes and baby equipment. And parents that come to that can come for 5 years. And that's the one program that is not income based. We don't care how much money you make. If you're saying that you want to do a lesson every month, meet with a mentor every month because you want to be a better parent, then we're going to help you.
That's great.
And we have more like single dads and grandparents in the program right now than ever. I love that program because sometimes it takes months,
Oh yeah,
for someone to really tell you what's going on in their life.
yeah.
And
Break down the walls.
that's the one. That's the program that we've seen the most growth in a
Well, and
person.
that
But
old adage, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
yep.
People might initially come because they just want something free,
Mm-hmm.
but they know that it's not free. They got to do something, right? But once they realize that these people really care about us and they really want to help us, then they probably start to break down the walls and you get
Yeah.
more opportunity to
Yeah.
build a relationship and educate and those
Mm-hmm.
things. So
We also have class space in there.
so the main building houses some classroom space, a food pantry, which is like a little grocery store.
A meeting
Um,
area that is the only thing I had to fight for in that building. A lot of people thought it was just wasted space to have this big open area, but that's where we have like a monthly veterans lunch.
yeah.
We have a men's breakfast, a women's brunch. We have large classes in there.
And then the houses are for people who are just displaced or need a place to stay.
Well, the houses are in terrible disrepair right now, so they need to be gutted. One of them, General Motors, sent a team to gut last year as a service project, but they were originally built for in the 60s or 70s, bad boys. So kids were sent there instead of going to like
Gotcha.
detention. So it was boys throughout Michigan, and they got a bad rap, in town. There's still some old people that think when they've heard that we were doing housing, that nervous, and we had to go to a township meeting and explain, no, that's not going to be us breaking into your house. But we didn't know who was going to live there. I naively thought that, because we know what the need is, I thought that one house could be for veterans and one could be for women and one could be for people reentering society. And the houses are too close to each other. We know that now. And that just wouldn't work. And so
Yeah.
people kept saying, who's going to live there? What are you going to do? And we knew that it was so far off because we didn't have the money to do it. But we also didn't, one day someone said, did you pray about it? Have you guys prayed about it? And we didn't ever ask God who's going to live in those houses.
Yeah.
So Bob and I prayed, and I'm not lying. The next day, for 21 days, we got calls from women or women with children. And they were always from our community. So Fenton, Linden, Grand Blanc, Holly. I mean, they weren't from Detroit or, Flint. Right. It was people in our community. And it wasn't situations like what you think of homeless. It was someone like really trying to flee abuse, or someone that just felt like they didn't have a reason to live. Or one lady, I'll never forget, her husband passed away, and like 2 months later, their house was repossessed and she had nowhere. So those homes are going to be for women and children. We're just finishing up our zoning with the township, so we can be zoned properly for it. We want to set a solid foundation. That's another thing, given our age. Everything that Bob and I are doing now, we really feel like God's called us to build a foundation so that it's strong. So whoever takes it over isn't going to be like, why didn't they zone this correctly? Or,
Yeah.
why did
Perfect.
they
Yeah.
just,
Set it up.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's
Because
what
you really
that's,
don't know how much longer God's going to have you doing it either.
we don't.
Yeah. So,
No.
yeah. So, okay. So, um, short term, obviously, you guys are just continuing to build the Center of Hope, take care of people, offering education and resources and relationships, and then long term, get this housing kind of set up to where you can help people who are in need and in distress. So I think it's absolutely incredible what you guys are doing, and I love that you guys, are just working with this vision and just always moving towards something. I always tell people I think it's so important that even in your personal life, not just in your business or your organization, that you're always working towards something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so many people get down and depressed and sad and all of these things because they're not really working towards anything. And so every day is just kind of like going through the motions. And I think when you have a vision of somewhere you're trying to go, and it might change, like I always kind of have a 5-year goal, and within that 5 years, it'll change like 100 times, but I'm always working towards something. And I think that gives each day purpose and all of those things. So how does somebody then, if they're in need, how do they connect with you? Do they just come? Is there a website? Like, how do they make that connection, and how do they ultimately get help?
On our website, we have everything's online now. So we do have an online application that you can apply for assistance. It's one application for whatever you're dealing with. So we do have an application director now, and she reviews all of the applications that come in. And we don't have like a magic number like the government, like you have to show this or that or your tax statements from last year, because we know how quickly life can change. And it just has to make sense that that if it's a financial need, that what you're bringing in is not covering what's going out. But from that application, it's just we can find out all kinds of clues. There's
Yeah.
always different things that people know that we don't know that we offer. So if you are like knowing that you cannot feed your family this week, you have no food, so you desperately fill out this application. Well, our team looks at that application, and we know that you've got 2 kids under 2 years old. And so we know how much money you're spending in diapers. So they might not know about our parenting program, where if you come to that program, you get free diapers for the whole month.
Yeah.
If it says on there that you're not, you've got a disability, but you're not receiving disability, some people they get denied. Every week I hear, I got denied, and they don't know that everybody gets denied the first time. You have to apply again. So all kinds of little red flags, different things. This gal is getting so good. I used to do all the applications, and it really is like a full-time job. So now she's taking that off of me, but she'll send me a screenshot even, and she'll circle something, and she'll like say possible domestic abuse or possible trafficking. I'm not kidding. Like we have situations like we think is someone being held against their will. And again, in the suburbs, just
Yeah.
so that application is where we kind of figure out where we can help people. We do not have an HR person. I have no training in HR, but it turns out that I'm pretty good at getting people jobs.
Yeah.
But that's only because of the amazing connections and the friendships we have in our town. So we have people that we have a business owner who owns several different franchises, locations of our franchise. And one day I called him and I texted him and I said, "Hey, do you guys hire felons?" And he wrote back and he said, "My company does not hire felons, but let me guess, you have a felon that you believe in." And I said, "I do. I really do." And he trusted us to hire them. Like the people that hire people for us know if there's a problem, we'll address it. We want to help people move forward. That's everything we do. We want to help someone move forward. So that's why it's like you're going to, we don't want you to do something to earn something. We want you to do something to better yourself.
I like that. Yeah. Well, that's a big difference too.
Yeah.
So what do you think, a lot of the people that watch this show are entrepreneurs or people that are running an organization or a business. And so I think, they watch to kind of get thoughts and ideas from other people who are in it and in the fight and in the battle and kind of doing it. What do you think is the key to kind of keep going, right? Because there are days where it's just hard and it just doesn't make financial sense and it just doesn't make time sense and all those things. What do you think are the keys to keep going and doing what you're doing?
like what you said, just to keep our eyes fixed on what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And, for the first time in my life, and I, had a career, my husband had a career, but we will both say, like, for the first time in our lives, we know that we're doing what we were called to do.
Yeah.
Like, everything in my life, I said I wasn't going to cry. I didn't need to, but everything in my life has led up to this,
Yeah.
and even him, everything has just lined up to this.
Yeah.
And every good and bad thing about us, God created us to do this, to love people.
Absolutely.
And like all the times we've screwed up in our own lives, he allows us. That's why we have grace for people. And I know without a doubt, and I do say all the time, it's a joke around our office that I say, I'm going to quit. Like, okay, I think I'm going to quit. And then a couple weeks ago, I literally said, okay, this could be it. Like, this could be, I'm done. In like just a matter of days, 3 different people who we've been working with extensively, a couple for, more than a year, they just all made like bad choices and like had huge relapses. And I was devastated.
Yeah.
And not that I think that, we are all that, but I thought I just invested all this time. We as a team invested all this time. And did we really make a difference?
Sure.
And the most devastating one, like the final thing that put me over the edge, was someone that I really thought that I was in close relationship with, that we had been mentoring and working with. And then we find out, like, oh my word, like she's being evicted and she lost her job and didn't tell us. And now she's moving to a different state and this is going to be devastating for her kids. And like, how did we miss it? We got so busy that we missed it.
Right.
And so I said, I'm going to quit. And everybody knew, just like I shut my office door, I left early that day. I couldn't stop crying. And that doesn't happen real often. But I just was like, seriously, like, Lord, I couldn't think of one story. And I was like saying, just please give me one example of like what we're doing is okay, that I'm still following your will, that this isn't in my strength, that this is what you want us to do. And I could not think of a single thing.
Yeah.
That night I went home, and I'm rarely on Instagram, but I got this notification that I had a message on Instagram. So I looked at it, and there was this teenage girl, and she said, it's been a long time, and I just wanted you to know, though, that I'm okay. And I don't know what would have happened to me if I hadn't met you and if I hadn't walked through the doors of the Center of Hope. And then we ended up having this huge conversation about like how she's really doing okay. Now, you asked how people know about us. It is not uncommon for law enforcement or somebody just to drop someone off to us and just say, we don't know what to do. And so one night we were there, it was after hours, and the back door opened, like our employee entrance, and this elderly gentleman walked in, and he had this teenage girl with him, and it was cold. It was a year ago. It was cold, and she didn't have a coat on. So she's like got her arms wrapped around herself. And he said, if I leave her here, is she going to be safe? And I said, what? We were all confused. And he said, if we leave her here, is she going to be safe? And I said, well, yes. I said, what's the situation? Who are you? And he said, she's a runaway I found on our property. And he said, she begged me not to call the police. And he was from like 30 minutes away. But one time he passed our building and he remembered seeing the name Hope.
Wow.
He said, I just felt like I was supposed to bring her here. And he couldn't wait to get out of there. And I kept thinking my dad would have responded the same way. Like, I don't want to get accused of anything, but he was building a building on his property and had cameras set up, and he saw her huddled in this little, shed thing that he's building. And he went out there and said, what are you doing? And she'd run away. And she ended up staying with us for several hours. The local police came. The Michigan State Police ended up being involved. Someone ended up getting arrested that night. She went to a medical place for help. Her story was very true, but she didn't think anybody would believe her. And the cop that came that night, he said, man, I wish I had a Bible, because she was like, she'd gone to church the night before. Her mother allowed her to go to church with her sister, but did not like the fact that she was going to church. Well, she gave her life to the Lord that night.
Wow.
And the pastor gave her a Bible. And then they got home and they were late because she stayed after. The mom was like, where were you? And she's like, I went to church and something amazing happened. And her mom took her Bible and threw it away. And that girl was like, I'm done. And she ran away. So this cop was like, no, this is what the Bible says. And so I'm like, I have a Bible. So I go in my husband's office. I knew that he had this brand new Bible in there. And this cop wrote sticky notes all over it and gave her this Bible. Didn't hear from her for a year. And she's back home and she's okay. And she's still going to church.
Wow.
And so then I started looking through her Instagram, and she really seems like she's okay. And to hear that night, like what this kid's gone through her whole life, I would have thought she's not going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any way to contact her. I had nothing, but God used the Center of Hope that night.
And that's it. I think the key there is God used the Center of Hope. You know, we all know at the end of the day, the only thing that's really going to help someone is not if they get by that week with some food or with some clothes or a bill pay, or even some housing. What's going to ultimately change their life is if they come to Jesus.
Yeah.
And God uses a ministry like yours to show people Jesus, to show them the light, to show them kindness, to show them love, and just to minister. I mean, and really that's what a church does, right? And so, you know, I think in those days where you feel like I'm done, you know, remembering those stories, and you're not going to win everyone. And my son Micah, actually, he taught Sunday school the week after me, and he taught about being a witness. And his take was, and it's from the Bible, obviously, is we're not called to save people. We're called to tell them. We're called to show them Jesus. We're called to be the light. And so we do everything that we can and know how to show them Jesus, to present them the gospel, to give them opportunity. But at the end of the day, God is the one who gives the increase, right? There's a story or not a story, but in Acts, it talks about Apollos watered, or Paul planted, Apollos watered, but God gives the increase. Like, we can only do what we can do. And so knowing that you're showing Christ and doing that, I think, stay encouraged in the moments that you see God really change someone's life, because really that's the only change that will stick.
Yeah.
And that will matter, because you probably noticed this too, you know, people live in patterns.
Yep. Cycles.
Yeah, right. And so if they were raised in a certain way, they just can't get out of it. And even though they might try, they're just almost they're a victim of their circumstances, right? And so, and we all have it. We all have patterns. We all have things that we took from our parents or took from our upbringing or whatever. But the only real lasting change that really just makes a difference is Jesus.
Yeah.
And so I think it's great. Well, I appreciate you sharing those stories. And before, we're going to end the episode by doing a little game called Say It in 60, where I'll give you 60 seconds to answer 10 questions. But before we do that, why don't you look into this camera right here and let people know how they can connect with Center of Hope, whether that be they're in need, or they want to volunteer, or they want to donate. How can they get involved and be connected to you guys and go?
Okay, FentonCenterofHope.org is our website. So again, FentonCenterofHope.org. And there's a place on there, a little bubble for if you need help, and there's a bubble if you want to volunteer. We need your support more than ever. So if you can't volunteer, but if you can give, our monthly donors right now is our big, huge ask. Even if it's $25 a month, that helps us plan. And if we don't have a resource that can help you and you are in need, then we probably know of a resource. Our phone number is 810-620-8167. And we would love to give you a tour. If you ever want to stop by, we would just love to give you a tour. We speak to groups. So if you have a group or organization in our service area and you would like to hear more about us, just give us a call and schedule for Bob and I to come speak.
Great plug. That's one of the better plugs. You've said that stuff before. So
All the time.
You got it down.
Yes.
So good. Yeah, I mean, I've heard you say similar things at Networking Now, right? That's one of the cool things about those groups is you get to, in real time, practice how to tell people about what you do, because a lot of people don't do that very often. So, well, Jen, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your heart with us and sharing your story. And, you know, I would just say, you know, I haven't been to the Center of Hope personally, but I've seen the pictures. I've gotten to know Jen. I've met a lot of people that are involved with it and have had nothing but all positive feedback and comments, and how much it means to people, not even the ones that are necessarily utilizing the services, but to the ones that are involved and that go to the dinner and that are donating, and they just feel like they're a part of something big. And so I appreciate you sharing that with our audience. And but before we let you go, we're going to take the last 60 seconds to squeeze the last bits of wisdom out of you that we can. And this is a segment that our fans like called Say It in 60. So like I said, I'm going to give you 10 rapid fire questions. You have 60 seconds to answer. You got to give quick answers. And there's no wrong answer because they're your answers. So don't overthink it. Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Micah, are you ready? Got the timer for us? All right. The timer starts now. What is your favorite hobby?
Reading.
Favorite place you've ever been?
Pentwater, Michigan.
Favorite food?
Mexican.
What is a must-read book?
The Bible.
Favorite podcast?
This one.
A daily habit everyone should practice?
Reading the Bible.
A TV series worth binge watching?
Anything cops or
Okay.
medicine.
In your opinion, what will help a brand grow more? High-quality photography or high-quality video?
Video.
A great website or a great social media presence?
What is?
No, which one would help more if they can only choose one?
This is out of my comfort zone. Presence.
How much time we got? 12 seconds to tell our audience. Last question. What is the key to success?
Love people, love God, love to serve.
Love it. That was a great answer. And with 4 seconds to spare.
Awesome.
I think Bill Anderson broke the record. I think he did it with like 11 seconds to spare, but 4
He's very
seconds.
precise. Yes.
He is. Yeah, but 4 seconds is good. A lot of people don't get there. So good job. Studio audience, round of applause. Good work. All right. Well, Jen, again, I know you said you were nervous, but you did fantastic. You didn't look nervous at all. And, what you do is it's in your heart and it's evident and you can tell. So again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for coming all the way here to Owasso to share that with us. And we'll be putting this episode out in about 2 weeks, I think. Or no, this one will go out Tuesday, right? This one goes out Tuesday at noon. And so we hope that you can share this with your audience and, bring some more light and awareness to the Center of Hope. So thanks again.
Thank you.
And thank you all for watching. We appreciate your viewership. We appreciate your support. If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe. And we appreciate everything that you can do. And as my mother always said, you can't and never could until you tried. So go out there and try something great, my friends. And don't take the easy way out. We'll see you next time.
Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. We want to connect with you. Drop a comment, share your thoughts, and let us know what guests you want us to have on the podcast. Follow us on social media for more branding insights, and thanks for watching Behind the Brand.